I believe this is everything we agreed upon.
Bye.
It appears so. Our partnership is secured.
What happens when a man, blinded by greed and ambition, marries a woman he believes he can control? What if that woman, whom he sees as nothing more than a tool to secure his future, turns out to be his worst nightmare? In today's story, we dive into the life of a millionaire businessman who believes he can buy anything: money, power, even love. But what he doesn't realize is that the woman he marries for money is not what she seems. He enters this marriage thinking he's the one pulling the strings, but soon the roles reverse, and he becomes the puppet in a game far more dangerous than he ever imagined. At first, everything seems perfect. She's everything he's ever wanted in a wife: beautiful, poised, and obedient. But behind her calm exterior lies a mind far more calculating and ruthless than he could ever have predicted. She quickly begins to unravel his carefully constructed world, exposing the cracks in his empire and his own psyche. She's not the submissive woman he expected. She's a force to be reckoned with, and as their marriage plays out, it becomes a high-stakes battle of wills. As their relationship progresses, he finds himself in a constant struggle for control. What started as a partnership built on convenience and manipulation slowly morphs into a deadly power struggle. He realizes too late that the woman he married is far more than he bargained for. The consequences of his choices spiral out of control, and is left scrambling to keep his empire from crumbling. In today's video, we witness how one man's hubris and desire for power ultimately lead to his destruction. A woman, once seen as a mere pawn in his game, emerges as the true mastermind, dismantling everything he thought he owned. The sun sets over the city skyline, casting long shadows across the luxurious penthouse. The once elegant space, filled with marble floors, grand chandeliers, and priceless art, now feels cold and sterile. The millionaire stands at the window, his back to the room, his fingers tapping nervously on the glass. Outside, the city pulses with life, lights twinkle in the distance, and the hum of traffic creates a low, steady rhythm. But inside, there's a thick tension hanging in the air, heavy enough to suffocate anyone who steps into the room. He's on edge, his thoughts racing. He's used to being in control, used to having everything at his fingertips. Yet tonight, something feels different. The silence is almost deafening, broken only by the distant sound of his wife's heels clicking on the marble floor behind him. He's not used to feeling this vulnerable. For years, he's been the one who calls the shots. His wealth, his power, his connections have always made him invincible. But in this moment, he's not sure if his empire can withstand the storm that's brewing. As he turns around, he sees her standing there, watching him with an unreadable expression. Her beauty is still striking, but there's something else in her eyes now, something darker. He can't put his finger on it, but he knows it's there, and it scares him. She crosses the room, each step measured and deliberate, her eyes never leaving his. The air between them is thick with unspoken words, and he can feel the weight of her gaze as if she's seeing straight through him. He opens his mouth to speak, but no words come out. She smiles, a knowing smile that makes his skin crawl. "Are you wondering why I'm here?" she asks softly, her voice low but piercing. He stares at her, confusion flickering across his face. She's always been calm, composed, and distant, almost like a doll on a pedestal. But now, there's something in her demeanor that makes him realize he's losing control. "I think you already know," she adds, her smile widening just slightly. He takes a step back, his pulse quickening. What's she playing at? "But what if the game we're playing isn't just about control?" she continues, her tone becoming more serious. "What if it's about something far deeper, something you've never considered before?" His mind races, trying to understand what she's getting at. She's always been an enigma, but now she's a threat he can no longer ignore. He's always been the one in power, the one calling the shots. But this woman, this wife of his, has begun to shift the power dynamic in ways he can't comprehend. "What do you want from me?" he asks, his voice shaking slightly as he tries to regain his footing. She doesn't answer right away. Instead, she steps closer to him, so close that he can feel her breath on his skin. Her eyes meet his, and for the first time, he feels small, insignificant. Her next words send a chill down his spine. "I want everything." And with that, the scene cuts to black. The tension is palpable, and the viewer is left hanging, wondering, what does she mean? How far is she willing to go to destroy him? Is it too late for him to salvage what's left of his empire? To find out, keep watching. The penthouse is eerily quiet, the only sound coming from the distant hum of the city far below. The windows, usually a portal to a sprawling skyline, are now nothing more than cold, unfeeling glass, reflecting the shadows of the room. The sun has dipped below the horizon, leaving behind a pale, fading glow that barely touches the edges of the lavish space. The lights of the city twinkle faintly in the distance, a world he once ruled, but now feels so far removed from. Inside, there's an uncomfortable stillness, a kind of silence that presses in on all sides, as if the room itself is holding its breath. The penthouse, once a symbol of power and wealth, now feels like a gilded cage. The furniture, all sharp lines and expensive material, seems to mock the emptiness that now fills the space. There's no warmth, no comfort here. Every surface gleams under the harsh light, every corner feels too exposed. There's no peace to be found in this place, just cold, mechanical luxury. The only thing that stands out amidst the sterile beauty of the space is the palpable tension between the two of them. He stands by the window, staring out into the distance, his posture tense, as if the world outside might offer him some form of solace or control. But deep down, he knows it's an illusion. Control is slipping from his grasp. The empire he worked so hard to build, the life he thought he had complete command over, is slowly but surely unraveling. He feels the weight of that loss, each moment heavier than the last. She, standing behind him, remains an enigma, a presence that feels like both a comfort and a threat. Her silence, as sharp as his thoughts, only deepens the unease that churns in the pit of his stomach. He's never been able to read her, never been able to decipher the complex layers beneath her calm exterior. But tonight, something is different. He can feel it. She's no longer the compliant woman he married for convenience, for status, for her wealth. No, tonight, she feels like a stranger. She's changing, and he's afraid he's losing control. He feels the need for control more than ever, but there's an underlying fear gnawing at him. His empire, built on wealth and manipulation, is slipping through his fingers, and with it, so is his grasp on his own life. He's not the confident, calculating man who once ruled the business world with an iron fist. Tonight, for the first time, he's unsure. The certainty that once defined him is gone, replaced by an anxious, creeping doubt. His pulse quickens, the air in the room thick with unspoken words, each of them weighing heavily on him. She, on the other hand, remains eerily calm. She always does, but tonight, her composure feels like a mask. Her emotions are unreadable, a mystery he can't solve. There's a quiet intensity about her, a determination that makes him uncomfortable. It's not the passive obedience he married her for. No, she's changed. But what exactly she wants, what she plans to do with this newfound power, he can't fathom. She seems like a stranger, a woman who, despite her beauty and outward grace, has been quietly plotting her next move. And that terrifies him more than he cares to admit. He can feel the power shift in the room. She's no longer the pawn he thought she was. If anything, she's the one who holds the cards now. She has become the puzzle he can't solve, the force he can't control, and he's afraid it's too late to undo the damage he's done. The silence hangs between them like a thick fog, stretching longer than it should. He can't take it anymore. His patience snaps, the control he once had over his emotions breaking under the weight of her stillness. "Why are you doing this?" he spits out, his voice jagged with frustration. He turns to face her, his eyes narrowing. "What do you want from me? I've given you everything. The money, the power, the status, everything you could ever want. So why are you acting like this?" Her expression doesn't shift. She simply watches him, her gaze cool and calculating, like she's studying him. He can't understand why she's not reacting, why she isn't begging for forgiveness or trying to explain herself. She's standing there, so composed, while everything he's worked for is collapsing around him. She takes a slow, deliberate step forward, her heels clicking on the polished floor, each sound echoing through the vast space. Her eyes never leave his, and in them, he sees something he doesn't recognize, something sharp, something dangerous. "I don't want anything from you," she says, her voice soft but carrying a weight that sends a shiver down his spine. You're the one who's lost everything. Her words hang in the air, a chilling declaration that shakes him to his core. The ground beneath him feels less stable, as if the very foundation of his life has started to crack. He's the one who's lost everything? How could that be? He's the one who controls the money, the businesses, the power. She's the one who should be grateful for the life he's provided her. But there's no denying it. He feels it. The creeping sensation of losing control, of being powerless in the face of her calculated silence. The truth is starting to dawn on him, like a slow, suffocating realization. He's no longer the master of this situation. She is. And in that moment, he realizes that his world, his empire, might be in far more danger than he ever imagined. The stakes are higher than they've ever been before, and the game, it seems, is far from over. You're just a pawn in my game, he says through gritted teeth, trying to reassert some form of control, but his voice lacks conviction. He knows, deep down, that he's losing this battle, and the thought is as unsettling as it is terrifying. Her eyes flicker, a hint of something unspoken passing between them. She's not the submissive wife he thought she was. She's something else entirely, someone he can't control, and for the first time, he feels it. Is that what you think? She asks, a cruel smile curling at the edges of her lips. You've been playing a game, but it's not one you can win. Not anymore. And with that, the tension in the room becomes unbearable, a storm ready to break. He's no longer sure where the game ends and reality begins, but he's about to find out. Days pass, and with each one, his internal struggle deepens. The tension in the house is palpable, like a storm hovering just above them, ready to break. He can feel it in his chest, the tightening, the unease. Everything he's worked for, everything he's built with meticulous calculation, is slipping through his fingers. It's not just the empire he's worried about anymore, it's himself. His sense of control, once unshakable, is now a distant memory. Every interaction with her feels like a silent battle, an unspoken war of wills. She remains cool, detached, watching him like an observer, never reacting the way he expects. He tries to play the game, his game, the one where he controls the narrative, where he holds all the cards. But every time he thinks he's got her cornered, she slips away, leaving him frustrated and exposed. He watches her closely now, studying her every move. At first, it was easy. He had power, wealth, and influence to bend anyone to his will. But with her, it's different. The more he tries to assert his dominance, the more she resists, effortlessly breaking through the walls he's constructed around himself. She doesn't need to say anything to unravel him. Her mere presence is enough. He can feel her growing power over him, and it terrifies him. As he looks at his reflection in the mirror, he barely recognizes the man staring back. The confident, powerful millionaire he once was is gone. In his place is someone vulnerable, someone desperate for control, someone he doesn't know how to be anymore. Every attempt to dominate her feels increasingly futile, and with each failure, his frustration grows. The realization settles in. He can't control her, and he doesn't know how to regain the upper hand. The house, once a fortress of luxury, feels like a trap. His fortress is falling apart from the inside, and it's all because of her. One evening, he finds himself unable to hold back any longer. He's been brooding in silence for days, the tension between them growing thicker by the hour. His thoughts spiral. He can't focus on work. He can't sleep. His mind races with one overwhelming thought. What happened to the woman I married? Finally, he confronts her. He doesn't even know what he wants from the conversation, perhaps an apology, perhaps an explanation, but what he gets is not what he expected. He stands in the doorway of the living room, his voice barely containing the storm brewing inside him. Why are you doing this to me? He demands, his voice tight. His eyes are burning with frustration, and there's an edge to his words that's been building for days. You think you can destroy everything I've worked for? You're just a pawn in my game. Don't forget that. She doesn't flinch. Instead, she looks at him with an expression of detached amusement. It's the calmness that gets to him, that cool, controlled silence that tells him he's not in control anymore. You think you know everything about me, she responds, her voice low and dripping with sarcasm. You don't know a damn thing about who I really am, do you? Her words hit him like a slap, cutting through his fragile composure. It's like she's finally speaking the truth, something he's been too afraid to confront. For a moment, he stands there, speechless. Then, his temper flares. "What the hell are you talking about?" He steps toward her, his fists clenching at his sides. "You married me for a reason. You're not the victim here. I gave you everything. You think you can just turn on me?" She rises slowly from the chair, her eyes never leaving his. For the first time, there's something in her gaze that feels almost predatory. "You gave me everything? You think you made some great sacrifice?" She laughs bitterly, her voice cold as ice. "What you don't understand is that I don't need you, or your money, or your power. But I will use all of it to tear you down." Her words cut through the air, sharp and final. He stares at her, his breath catching. He realizes, too late, that she's never been the pawn he thought she was. She's been playing him all along, and now she's winning the game. The truth crashes down on him like a wave, and for the first time, he understands what's really happening. He's been the one being manipulated. He's the one who's been outplayed. In that moment, something shifts inside him. He stands frozen, his mind racing to process the truth. The realization comes in a sharp, painful flash. He's not in control of the game. He never was. All those years, he thought he was building an empire, constructing a life where he held all the cards. He thought he was the master of his destiny, that everyone around him, especially her, was just a piece of the puzzle to be used at his whim. But she's been the mastermind all along, setting the stage for his destruction. The weight of the truth settles heavily on his chest. The power he once held over others, over her, has evaporated, leaving him exposed, vulnerable. The man who thought he could control everything is now at her mercy. It's a bitter, humiliating truth. He takes a step back, his chest tightening as he feels the sting of her words deep within him. She's not the woman he thought she was. She's not the naive, obedient wife he'd expected. She's a force in her own right, one that's not afraid to dismantle everything he's built. And as the weight of his mistakes settles in, he realizes that the man he once was, confident, untouchable, in control, is gone. In his place stands a man who has been thoroughly outplayed, who has no idea how to fight back. The stakes have never been higher. What started as a simple marriage for convenience, a calculated alliance between two powerful people, has now spiraled into something far darker. This isn't just about pride in Amor, it's about survival. He's no longer worried about losing his empire, he's worried about losing himself. Her power over him is becoming more apparent with each passing day. She knows his weaknesses, his fears, his deepest insecurities, and she's not afraid to exploit them. Every interaction, every conversation, feels like another piece of the puzzle she's slowly piecing together, and he's powerless to stop it. His desperation grows. He tries to regain control in subtle ways, manipulating her, using his wealth, his status, but she's always one step ahead. Her every move seems to undermine him, like she's orchestrating his downfall with cold precision. She doesn't need to make him afraid. She doesn't even need to raise her voice. Her silence, her calm demeanor, is more than enough to shake him to his core. He starts to question everything he thought he knew about her, about himself, about the world they live in. The walls he built around his life, his empire, are crumbling faster than he can rebuild them, and with each new revelation, the danger grows. What began as a calculated transaction between two people has now become a deadly game, and he's not sure he'll make it out unscathed. The stakes are higher than they've ever been, and every step he takes feels like a step closer to losing everything. As he watches her, standing there so calm, so confident, the one thought gnaws at him. What will she take from him next? The mansion feels more like a prison now. Each hallway seems longer than the last, the opulence of the place now a cold reminder of everything slipping away. The walls, once a symbol of his success and power, seem to be closing in around him. His every move is calculated. Each word he speaks feels like a misstep. Each glance he gives her more revealing than he intends. He can't escape the nagging feeling that something is wrong. The unease in his gut has only grown with time, gnawing at him relentlessly. Every conversation with her feels like a game he can't win. He watches her now, studying her movements, searching for any clue, any sign of her intentions. But she's always so calm, so composed, never betraying a single hint of what she's truly planning. It's as if she's one step ahead of him, and no matter how hard he tries to keep up, is always falling behind. Every night, sleep eludes him. He lies awake in the dark, haunted by the thought of what she might be capable of. He thought he was the one in control, that he was the master of this world they built together. But now, that control feels more and more like an illusion. His worst fear isn't just about losing his empire anymore. It's the realization that he's powerless in this game, that has been played from the beginning. He doesn't know what she's planning, but he's certain it's something worse than he can imagine. And it's coming for him. He can feel it in the air, an unspoken tension that lingers between them, suffocating him. The storm is coming, and there's nothing he can do to stop it. Then it happens, the words that shatter the carefully constructed walls around his mind. The revelation that will forever change everything. It's a simple dinner, an evening that seems no different from any other, but tonight, she's been unusually quiet. He's tried, as he always does, to keep things light, to maintain control over the conversation, over the atmosphere. But something's different tonight. There's an underlying tension in the air, a heaviness that neither of them can ignore. He can't stand it anymore. His patience, worn thin, breaks. What is it you're not telling me? He demands, the frustration in his voice evident. You've been acting so distant lately. What's really going on? For a moment, she just stares at him, almost as if she's studying him. Her face betrays nothing, no fear, no emotion. It's as if she's waiting for him to reach the conclusion on his own. Finally, she speaks, her voice calm, almost too calm. You want to know what's been going on? Fine. Let me tell you. He leans forward, hanging on every word. But nothing could prepare him for what's coming next. You think you married me for money, she says slowly, almost lazily. That I was just some desperate woman with no other options, willing to be bought for a price. But you're wrong. You've underestimated me. His stomach churns, a sense of dread creeping over him as the truth begins to sink in. Her gaze never falters. You know, I could have been just like any other woman you've manipulated in the past, bought, used, discarded. But I'm not. I'm here for a different reason. You see, my father lost everything because of you. The words hit him like a punch to the gut. His mind races, scrambling to make sense of it. His breath catches in his throat as he tries to process what she's saying. What? What are you talking about? The empire you built, the one you're so proud of, was built on lies and manipulation. My father was one of your business partners, and you drove him to ruin. He trusted you, but you betrayed him, and because of that betrayal, he lost everything. His reputation, his wealth, his life, and you never even looked back. But I remember everything you did. The silence that follows her words is suffocating. Is frozen, unable to move, unable to speak. The weight of her revelation presses down on him, suffocating him. His world begins to unravel as the truth crashes through him like a tidal wave. The woman he thought was his pawn, his property, has been playing a game of her own. And he's the one who's been played. He stands motionless, his mind racing as the weight of her words sinks in. The pieces of the puzzle, the things he never understood, fall into place one by one. He always thought he had everything figured out, always believed that he was the master of his fate. But now, as the truth unfolds before him, he realizes how wrong he was. Guilt floods over him like a tidal wave, the kind of guilt that sinks deep into the soul, the kind that claws at your chest and threatens to choke the life out of you. He feels sick, physically sick. The betrayal he thought he had carried out is nothing compared to the betrayal he's now facing. And it's not just about the business anymore. It's about the woman sitting across from him, the one he thought he could control. She's not just a victim of his manipulation, she's the one who's been holding all the cards. Her words keep echoing in his head. My father lost everything because of you. The guilt is suffocating, drowning him in a sea of regret. He never once thought of the people he crushed beneath his ambition, never once considered the lives he destroyed in his quest for power. But now, he's staring at the face of the destruction he's caused. And it's looking back at him with cold, unfeeling eyes. He tries to speak, but the words stick in his throat. The realization of what he's done, of what he's become, weighs him down. For the first time in his life, he feels truly powerless. There's no amount of money, no power, no influence that can fix this. His empire, his wealth, his reputation, None of it matters now. The consequences of his actions have finally come for him, and they are more devastating than he ever imagined. The silence between them stretches on, thick and suffocating. The room that once felt like home now feels like a cage, and the woman sitting across from him, the woman he thought he could control, is no longer the obedient wife he thought he'd married. She's not the victim. She's the one holding all the power now. Everything between them shifts in an instant. The dynamics of their relationship are no longer what they once were. The bond they shared, fragile and rooted in mutual exploitation, has shattered beyond repair. She is no longer someone he can manipulate or control. She's the one who's been pulling the strings all along, and he's the one who's been a puppet in her game. There's no turning back now. He realizes, with a sickening clarity, that the foundation of their marriage, everything he thought was solid and secure, was nothing more than a facade. It's all crumbled beneath him. And now, she holds the power. The game has changed. He's the one at her mercy, and he doesn't know how to survive it. His empire, his wealth, everything he thought defined him, is crumbling. But worse than that, the relationship with the woman he thought he could control is irrevocably altered. The man he once was, the powerful, untouchable millionaire, is gone, and in his place is a man who is utterly powerless, facing the consequences of his actions. The weight of the truth is crushing. Every day, he wakes up with a hollow ache of regret gnawing at his insides. Is haunted by the realization that everything he built, everything he thought was his, has now been reduced to nothing. The constant reminder of his past mistakes comes in the form of a cold, calculating gaze. Every word she speaks, every silence between them, only deepens the guilt that threatens to swallow him whole. It's no longer just about the empire he's losing. It's the personal toll, the way his self-worth has eroded with every passing moment. The man he once was, powerful, untouchable, feared, has been replaced by a hollow shell, forever burdened by the weight of his actions. The guilt sits on his chest like a boulder, pushing the air from his lungs, leaving him gasping for breath. He can no longer find peace, even in his own home. When she walks into a room, he feels it, a chilling awareness of her presence, of the power she now wields. The woman he thought he could control, the woman he thought was merely a means to an end, has become his undoing. And with every word she speaks, with every glance she casts in his direction, she reminds him of the nightmare he's created. His empire is crumbling, his reputation is in tatters, and his mental state is unraveling. In his mind, he replays their conversations, searching for the moments where things went wrong, where he could have chosen differently. But there are no answers, just the hollow echo of his mistakes. He can't escape the suffocating weight of his decisions. He tried to play the game, to manipulate her for his own gain. But now, he's the one being played. And it's far worse than he ever imagined. The empire he built with so much blood, sweat, and ambition begins to crumble around him. It starts with the small things. His business deals are falling apart, his trusted allies are turning against him, and even his most loyal employees are starting to question his decisions. The whispers begin, quiet at first, but growing louder with each passing day. His every move is scrutinized, and his once untouchable status is now under attack from all sides. The company's stock prices plummet. His personal wealth, once overflowing, begins to shrink as investors pull out. The lavish lifestyle he once enjoyed, his private jets, his sprawling mansion, his extravagant parties, becomes a distant memory. Everything he took for granted is slipping through his fingers. The power he once wielded so effortlessly is now a distant fantasy. And then there's her, the woman who should have been a mere accessory in his life. She is now the architect of his downfall. She's not just a woman from a bet. She's the woman who is systematically dismantling everything he built. She's pulling the strings, orchestrating the collapse, and watching it all from the sidelines. He watches in horror as his world falls apart. The people he trusted, the friends, the business partners, the allies, are turning their backs on him. The pressure is mounting, and he has no one to turn to. She's taking everything from him, piece by piece, and he's powerless to stop it. His empire, his legacy, everything he thought he controlled, is now out of his reach. He doesn't know how to fix it. He doesn't know how to win this game anymore. And it terrifies him. She's no longer playing by his rules. Gone is the meek woman he thought he could manipulate into doing his bidding. She's grown into someone far more dangerous, someone who now holds all the power. Every decision he makes only tightens her grip on him, and she knows it. She's in control, and she's enjoying every moment of it. She doesn't need to raise her voice to command respect. She doesn't need to manipulate or threaten. All she has to do is stand back and watch him destroy himself. She's taking control, slowly and methodically dismantling everything he once held dear. The very thing he feared most, being powerless, is now his reality. She's stripping him of everything, and he can do nothing to stop her. The man who once held all the cards now finds himself desperately scrambling to regain even a single one. But it's too late. The tables have turned. She's no longer the victim in this story. She's the victor, and he's left to pick up the pieces of a life that no longer resembles the one he fought so hard to create. Her power doesn't come from wealth or influence anymore. It comes from the control she has over him. She knows his weaknesses, his vulnerabilities, and she uses them to her advantage. She's the one with the upper hand now, and he's left to watch as she moves toward her final goal, leaving him powerless and impotent in the wake of her rise. Desperation sets in. The man who once thought he was invincible is now a shell of his former self. He's tried everything to regain control. He's offered apologies, pleaded for forgiveness, even promised to change. But nothing gets through to her. She's no longer the person he once knew, the one he could manipulate with money, with promises, with power. She's hardened, a far cry from the woman he thought he could mold. She no longer needs his money, his status, or his influence. She's built her own power now, and she doesn't care for his apologies. She's already won, and he's left with nothing. His attempts to regain control only push her further away. The more he tries, the more futile it seems. She's cold, distant, and completely uninterested in his remorse. His empire is crumbling, his wealth is disappearing, and his personal life is in shambles. The lavish lifestyle he once enjoyed now feels like a distant memory, a dream that's slipping through his fingers like sand. He watches her as she takes control, step by step, and the desperation begins to claw at his chest. He's sinking, and no matter how hard he tries, he can't swim his way out of the disaster he's created. There's no way back. The power dynamics have shifted beyond his control, and the harder he struggles, the deeper he sinks. In the quiet of the night, he lies awake, the weight of his failures crushing him. He's lost everything, and she's the one who's taken it all. His wealth, his reputation, his power, they are all slipping through his fingers. And now, there's nothing left but the haunting realization that he can't undo the damage he's done. The consequences of his actions have come full circle. What was once an empire built on manipulation and control has now been reduced to rubble. And standing amidst the ruins is the woman who was once his pawn, now the architect of his destruction. The power has shifted, and he is left with nothing but the aftermath of his own choices. The air is thick with tension as he stands outside the door, gathering every ounce of courage to face her. The silence inside the mansion is almost deafening, a stark contrast to the chaos of his mind. His once pristine world has been shattered, and there's no escaping the looming storm of confrontation that's about to unfold. He can feel the weight of his decisions pressing on him, the reckoning coming like an unstoppable force. This is it, the moment of truth. He steps forward and opens the door, his movements hesitant, as though he's walking toward his own destruction. She's sitting in the grand living room, the very room that once symbolized his power and success. The irony isn't lost on him. He built this empire with her as his pawn, but now she's the one who controls it all. The room feels colder now, darker, as if the walls are closing in on him. She doesn't look up when he enters, her gaze fixed on the window, watching the world outside with a detachment that chills him. For the first time, he notices how different she seems, how much she's changed. She's no longer the woman he thought he could control. She's become something far more dangerous. She's completely detached from him now, and the realization hits him like a punch to the gut. "What do you want?" she asks without looking at him, her voice devoid of emotion. He hesitates for a moment, struggling to find the right words. His thoughts are a whirlwind, and the weight of his failures is suffocating him. He's not the man he was before. He's broken, desperate, and at the mercy of the woman he once sought to manipulate. "I want everything back," he says, his voice trembling. "My empire, my life. I made a mistake. I never should have treated you the way I did. Her eyes finally meet his, and he sees the coldness in them, the indifference, the utter lack of empathy. She stands slowly, her movements deliberate, and walks toward him. There's no anger in her expression, no desire for revenge. She's calm, collected, but it's this very calmness that unnerves him. You think you can undo what's been done? She asks, her tone still measured but cutting. You think you can just walk in here, beg for forgiveness, and everything will go back to how it was? He stumbles over his words, struggling to understand where this conversation is going. I never meant for it to get this far. I was just trying to build something. I didn't know it would destroy everything. She steps closer, her gaze unwavering, her presence almost suffocating. It's too late for apologies, she says softly. You had your chance to change, but you chose to play the game. And now, you've lost. He's in shock, the realization dawning on him that he's not dealing with the woman he once knew. She's not a victim anymore, she's the victor. She's the one holding all the power now, and he's left with nothing. He watches as she takes one last step toward him, the final nail in the coffin of his once perfect life. There's no turning back now. The empire he worked so hard to build, the power he once held in his hands, it's all gone. His wealth, his influence, his control over everything, vanished, dismantled, stolen by the woman he tried to manipulate. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. Her presence alone is enough to crush him, to remind him of everything he lost. His breath catches in his throat as she continues to speak. You destroyed your own life, she says, her words like daggers, each one digging deeper. I didn't have to do anything. You handed me everything. All I had to do was watch you tear yourself apart. His chest tightens, the weight of her words sinking in like a blade. The guilt, the shame, it consumes him. He's not just losing his empire. He's losing himself. The man he was, the man he thought he could control the world with, is gone. He's a broken man, shattered by his own greed and arrogance. The finality of the moment hits him like a flood. He's standing at the edge, looking down at the ruins of everything he thought he knew. There's nothing left for him. No wealth, no power, no respect, just the aftermath of his decisions. And she's standing there, the one person he thought he could control, now the one person who holds his fate in her hands. Character's reflection on the journey. He takes a deep breath, his mind racing as the full weight of everything he's done crashes down on him. How did it come to this? How did the man who once had everything, who had the world at his feet, end up here, broken, humiliated, powerless? He remembers the early days, when he thought he could use her, control her for his own gain. She was supposed to be a pawn in his game, someone to solidify his status, someone to manipulate into doing his bidding. But he underestimated her. He didn't see the woman beneath the surface, the woman who could rise above him, who could destroy everything he had worked for with a simple shift in power. Now, standing before her, he sees the truth. He was never in control. He was never the master of the game. He was just a player, and she was the one pulling the strings all along. I thought I could control everything, he says quietly, his voice barely audible. But I was wrong. I thought I could make you just another part of my empire, another tool to use. And now, everything's gone. My empire, my life, my pride, it's all crumbled. Her expression doesn't change. She's calm, composed, but there's something in her eyes, a quiet satisfaction that makes him feel even smaller. You didn't just lose your empire, she says softly. You lost yourself, and there's no getting it back. The finality of her words rings in his ears, and he knows she's right. He's no longer the man he once was, the man who thought he could control everything with money, power, and manipulation. He's a broken man, humbled by the very woman he sought to destroy. As she turns and walks away from him, he stands there, empty, a shell of the person he once was. The life he thought he could build is gone, and all that's left is the cold truth. He's destroyed everything he ever had, and now he has to live with the consequences. Closing thoughts. The climax of his journey is complete. He stands in the ruins of his former life, broken and powerless. The woman he thought he could control has turned the tables on him, leaving him with nothing but the shattered remnants of his empire. There's no redemption, no second chance, just the harsh reality of his own mistakes. The man who thought he could conquer the world has been defeated by the very woman he tried to manipulate. And as she walks away, leaving him behind in the ruins of his own making, he finally understands the true cost of his actions. He was never in control. He never was. Closure of the story. What started as a calculated move to secure wealth, power, and status has ended in absolute devastation. The man who once believed that money, control, and manipulation could buy him anything has learned the hard way that the human heart, love, trust, and integrity can't be bought or manipulated. He thought he could make a woman his pawn, but in the end, he was the one who was played. This story is a reminder that no matter how powerful we think we are, there are forces beyond our control, forces that remind us of our humanity and vulnerability. Power, greed, and manipulation may offer temporary satisfaction, but they come at a heavy price, and sooner or later, the truth has a way of surfacing. For him, the empire he built has crumbled, his pride shattered, and his future uncertain. The question that lingers now is, will he ever recover from the devastation he's brought upon himself? Or is he doomed to live with the weight of his guilt, never able to escape the consequences of his choices? The answer remains unclear, and that uncertainty is what makes the story all the more haunting. What do you think? Can someone like him change, or is it too late for redemption? Do you believe there's hope for someone who's lost everything, or do they deserve to live with the consequences of their actions? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more thought-provoking content. There are always more stories waiting to be uncovered, stories of power, betrayal, and the hidden truths beneath the surface. Join us for the next video, and thank you for watching.